Hello, and welcome to today's episode of Storytime. Today's excerpt is from one of my short stories entitled Out of Sight, Out of Mind, and you can find it in my Traveling Left of Center and Other Stories collection. Here we go. Out of Sight, Out of Mind. Let me just say at the outset that, in the words of the immortal bard, this is all much ado about nothing. I pay my taxes. Well, I used to pay them when I had anything to pay taxes on. Anyway, the taxes I once paid supported public institutions, like the library, which means I maintain that the aforementioned library, and its roof in particular, is as much mine as anyone's. So if I choose to spend one summer night on the asphalt shingles nailed to the library roof, it's entirely my own right and affair. Besides, I had such a perfect view of the fire from there. I've always searched for places where I can enjoy some privacy. I believe a person needs time to be alone, to appreciate life and nature and all the wondrous happenings in the world. One night, for instance, I even drove 25 miles out to the country just to revel in the silence and solitude. This was before they took my car away, of course, a punishment I found inconvenient, not to mention most unfair. After all, how was I supposed to know that the man wouldn't stop for me? The road was built for cars, not pedestrians, crosswalk lines notwithstanding. And he probably wasn't even blind. As I was saying, I drove out to the country. It was dark, just a few stars pricking through the black velvet sky. So silent you could hear a pin drop, provided you didn't lose it in the long grass, where it wouldn't make a sound that could be heard, no matter how quiet it was. The meadow was lined along one side with tall oak trees, very big, with lots of scratchy bark. Oak trees are so strong, so immovable. Just the ticket when the earth suddenly began to rotate a bit faster than normal. I wrapped my arms around the rough trunk and waited to see what would happen next. Something always happens, it seems. The rotation built up speed like an out-of-control merry-go-round. I held on tightly so I wouldn't spin off into the darkness, a helpless victim of centrifugal force. It was frightening, but quite exhilarating as well. I stayed like that for hours, my body pressed against the coarse skin of my rescuer, while the earth spun away into the darkness. And the mad twisting didn't slow down until dawn broke over the hillside and cars began to appear on the roadway. Was the world just tired of turning? Or was it all those bodies that slowed it down, exerting some kind of magnetic force against the wild revolution? Personally, I think it was the people. It has been my own experience that strange things quit happening when other people are around. Sometimes it can be very disappointing. But I digress. As I stated before, the library roof is mine. It's my last stop each evening, after I have let myself through the trap door on the grocery store roof to do my nightly shopping. Man does not live by bread alone, you know. Milk and eggs and butter are nice to have too. And since my little home in the woods, actually a large packing crate borrowed from a warehouse, but arose by any other name, has neither electricity nor heat, I have to shop every day. If I don't want to starve, that is. Some would call this stealing, but I'm not one to get caught up in semantics, especially when I'm in the mood for a nice ham and cheese on rye, topped with a large deli pickle. The store is quiet at night. I like that. I can hear the voices so much better when it's quiet. They're clearer, more distinct. I used to be afraid when I would hear them. After all, nobody else could. I thought it meant I was, crazy. You see, I can use that word, crazy. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Although I do remember giving my second grade teacher a concussion when I hit her with a large edition of Webster's Dictionary. Does that count? But then I thought about it, hearing the voices, I mean. After all, you don't get scared when you turn on the radio and disembodied voices come out of the little speakers, do you? Of course not. Then why should I worry because I have mastered the ability to hear voices without benefit of speakers or wires? Actually, I think it's pretty clever, but I doubt anyone would agree, so I'm keeping this talent to myself. Discretion is the better part of valor. Okay, that's my little excerpt from Out of Sight, Out of Mind. So now I'll give you a little bit of backstory about the story. No, I don't know anybody who does these kind of things, but I had this idea in my head about somebody who had definitely crossed the line that separates normal people from those who are just a little bit off. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought, well, let's make this character the kind of person who thinks he's normal and the rest of the world is slightly crazy or more than slightly crazy. And at the same time, let's make him very fond of using aphorisms and other kinds of phrases and work them into the story. And once I got started working on it, I wanted to see how many could I roll in that would make perfect sense. So that's basically what I did. I started playing around with the story, got the idea of somebody who would sneak into a grocery store, do his shopping at night, and as far as the fire, well, let's just say that he was not entirely innocent when it came to setting the fire, but he was bound and determined not to claim that he had done anything. As far as he's concerned, no matter what he does, it's all perfectly normal. So that's the little backstory to Out of Sight, Out of Mind. It's funny. Uh, all the way through to the very end. And I hope you have a chance to read it. And I would really love it if you would pick up a copy of Traveling Left of Center and Other Stories and read them all. See if you enjoy them. I think you will. Thank you so much for stopping by this episode of Storytime, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye-bye.